Hey everybody, Josh Ronquist here for Heavy Debriefings, and I feel like I need to bring this up because I'm very confused on why everyone has decided now in 2023 that promoters and venues and other places that hold bands should no longer take a merch cut or do pay to play, when it's something I've been fighting for ever since I started. Back when I was playing music, I was very adamant about never doing a pay-to-play show, and I was very adamant that if we ever had merch, that we should never, ever, ever give the venue any money, because that's not how it should work. It's supposed to be working together, and venues are so good at giving off the exposure bucks while not really giving anything of physical value to what you can do, and it sucks. I remember one distinct show that I had an honor to be able to play with someone I'll leave out of the question for right now. We did a private show, and I was a fill-in because the drummer was not able to make that show due to other obligations. After the show, one of the people that I played the show with handed me a $100 bill just for playing the show. I went into it thinking I was just doing this for a friend, I was doing this to have fun, and to play with someone that I truly looked up to. But one of the band members says, never play a show for free, and handed me a $100 bill, and even when I refused to take it, eventually I did take it. And I tried not to because I was still in that mindset that I was just happy to be here, which I pretty much still am when it comes to interviews and doing anything else that I do. But ever since that day, I realized don't play a show for free because it's your work, it's your value. Whether you're in a cover band, whether you're playing original music, you're the one that's setting up on stage, you're the one that's performing, you're the entertainment for the night. Why should you just get a cup of beer or a glass of water, or even in some rare occurrences, an appetizer from the bar and grill as payment? And of course, when you're in bigger bands and you have bigger promotions, you're able to have a tour manager, you're able to have labels backing behind you, so many other things that can go into it. You start working with local promoters or ones that run the venues, because sometimes they don't have a promoter, it's just the venue. You work back and forth and you have an agreement. You normally have, we're going to pay you this much. For local bands, it's pay to play because you have to pay for the tickets. And even if it's like, hey, it's not pay to play, you can sell them all off. And oh, don't worry if you don't sell X amount of tickets, that's fine. You will never play that venue again because they don't trust you to make enough money. Along with that, when it comes to the bigger bands, the bands that need the most money are the national bands. The bands that are either playing the weekend gigs or they're doing very small stints, or hey, let's face it, here in 2023, all bands need money to be able to continue. Because let's face it, music just isn't making money anymore. When you have a promoter that decides to say after the show, hey, even though it was a sold out show, I'm still going to need to take 20% of your merch sales to be able to break even. You know it's messed up. The promoter knows it's messed up, but they're the ones with the money, so you have to put up with it. Thankfully, over the last few years, bigger bands have been striking against this, and I'm seeing it more on social media every day. Bands that are finally deciding, hey, they don't want to take it anymore from these managers, these promoters, these venues, that they should make all of their merch money. They shouldn't have to do pay to play. They shouldn't have to do these things. They are the entertainment. They're the reason that they want you to come to the venue so the venue can make money on alcohol sales more than anything else, because that, of course, is the biggest markup that they can have. It's a fight that I've been fighting. I'm pretty much out of my local scene because a huge chunk of it, amongst other things, a huge chunk of it is how much I disdain the local promoter that puts on shows and does this exact business. I saw it right before my eyes. One touring band that I will refrain from mentioning because they were associated with me, the merch was mysteriously half gone. 50% they took that night because they knew me. And I know that's why it happened. And I was very adamant about this person, about not doing the pay to play, not doing merch sales, all of these things. I used to be quieter about it, and I used to hate the idea of it. Then this local promoter decided to blast my name, start crossing me out of going to shows and venues. Little did he know I didn't want to go to shows anymore anyways. Thought that I was taking money from him. Yes, because you weren't taking 20% or in some cases 50% of the merch sales. Wow. And my local scene, a few members of it specifically, had a huge problem with me saying anything about it because they were afraid of the promoter, thinking, hey, they weren't going to get called on anymore if they agreed. Hey, unless we chastise you publicly because I was doing it publicly, unless we tell you that you're wrong, we may never get a show again. We may never get to open up for these bands. We may never get these opportunities again. And when you let complacency lie, you end up with where we are in 2023 after a pandemic, and merch sales have gone from what used to be like 5 to 10% to 15%, and now the average is 20. And on a really bad night, it can go anywhere from 25 to 50. And now everyone's upset about it. It's funny how that works out. Like, I was speaking out about this for years here locally, and people stopped working with me. All these opportunities, like, hey, you're a drummer, you're not in 8 bands, why don't you join my band? Those emails stopped. Those calls no longer happened. And I'm pretty much associated with no one in my local scene anymore, which I'm totally fine with. A huge part of me really misses playing drums, and if I ever get into a better situation than where I'm at now in a 1-bedroom apartment, I would really love to be able to set up a room in a house, be able to soundproof it the best I can, and be able to play my drums again. But it just feels so odd to me that it takes a bigger band at the right place, at the right time, for all these other bands to finally stand up and say what a bullcrap idea it is for a manager to be able to take your merch sales for doing almost nothing. How do I know this? I mean, yes, maybe they're answering the emails. Yes, they have to be there for the show. Yes, they have to make sure that the venue is aware of everything. But they rely on interns, they rely on local bands, they rely on other people that are working at the venues. They do almost nothing, if sometimes not even show up for the actual show, and still expect now 20 to 50% of the merch sales. Why did we let this happen? Complacency. That's why we let it happen. This wasn't supposed to happen, but it's a way to screw over bands who just come there and are trying to work to entertain people, to be able to show off their music or play covers or whatever the case is, be the entertainment for the night at that venue. And the promoter just isn't making enough money because of the economy, because of inflation, because of the pandemic. They're trying to make up for all their time. Don't get me wrong, I am so happy that things are finally coming around on this, but you can say I'm a little bit bitter because I was fighting this fight for so long. And I eventually had to give up on it because I was no longer in a band. I no longer had a real fight for it, and all I could do was talk to bands off camera about it, because if they talked about it on camera, that could ruin their chances of playing a show at a venue in a particular place ever again. And that hurts. It hurts me that I had to go through all this. It hurts me seeing all the bands that lose so much money because of all this. And imagine all of the situations that are gonna happen coming up with every single band going out on tour here in 2023 because they're trying to make up lost wages and everything that's happened over the last couple years. And you know what's gonna happen? Nothing. Because that is how our society works. We all love to talk a big game, but none of us are ever going to do anything to prevent it from happening. There's not enough big names that are saying, hey, we're not going to do this tour, we're not going to play this venue, we're not going to work with this promoter again because they take a cut of our merch sales. Because legally, the promoters can, and they could even take more if they wanted to. It's just a bullcrap move, and it's going to keep happening. And unless actual change happens, just like with Ticketmaster and Live Nation, unless real change happens, the fees are just going to keep going up. The merch sales take is just going to keep going up. The guarantee for a band is going to go lower, and less bands are going to be able to play shows. And we're already seeing that internationally, and it's really going to hit hard next year if the US decides to raise the prices on those visas the way that they said they're going to do it exponentially. Bands aren't going to pay that much to come to America, even if it is the tastiest fruit to be able to reach that coin, because it's just not justified when you have to pay so much for visas. Labels aren't going to pay for it. It comes out of the band's pockets because money just doesn't come in the music way anymore. Not the way it used to. So for anyone checking this out, yeah, I'm making this because I'm a little bitter. I wanted to make a rant about it. But I'm calling on you as well. Like, if you're in a band, whether you're an international band, national band, local band, or if you're a basement band, or if you're just a fan that appreciates music, do what you can to actually support the bands. Support the bands while they're on tour. Go buy merchandise. Like, anytime that I was able to get into a show for free, back when I wanted to go to shows, I would always get at least a t-shirt, or a CD, or tapestries or something, because I wanted to feel grateful for everything that they did, because even though I know it's a guest list spot and it didn't cost them any money, the fact that I was able to get in for free meant something to me, and I wanted to show my appreciation more than just showing off an interview and taking pictures. I wanted to show where it counts, right here. And I call on you to do the same. Any shows that you go to, buy merch and enjoy it. Tell your friends to buy merch. When the bands aren't on tour, buy it from their websites. Buy the albums if you enjoy it that much, whether you do the Bandcamp thing, whether you buy a physical version if you enjoy vinyl. Spread the word through streaming sites. I mean, yes, it is the lowest way to make money when it comes to the actual music in and of itself, but if you spread enough word, people can make money off of streaming, even if it is too low, and it should be raised fairly. But above all, just support the artists that you actually care about, because all of them, if they're not struggling already because of everything that they had to deal with in the pandemic, they're definitely going to be hitting it in the pocketbooks once they start going on tour this spring and summer. And for Heavy Debriefings, this is a very pissed off Josh Runquist saying, see ya.